Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Bryce and today is May 17th. Today's video is going to be a little different. We're going to kind of start a little series here. It's going to be called the Cattle Yard Resurrection. I'm out here with my friend Jacob right now and he's going to tell us a little bit about what's going to be happening here.
So I'm Jacob, I'm Mitchell's older brother. You've seen Mitchell and Bryce's videos a long time. Bryce and I were talking and thought it'd be fun to kind of show what this place is now and my future plans for raising some feeders here and cows and bringing this feedlot back to life. To sum it up, I had the opportunity to buy this farm and some tillable from this farm family back in December. Dad and I have been renting the pasture for quite a long while, and the cow yard here has been neglected a little bit. It still works, but definitely has shown signs of wear. So this video series is going to be every 4 or 6 months. We're going to check in on progress and different things like that. But today's video is mainly just showing the way it sits now. We just got our cattle out of here a week ago, so this is a perfect time before the weeds grow up. This was a very, very busy farmyard back in the 60s and 70s. We've got a cool aerial photo we'll show later. But yeah, we'll walk around the yard here and show all the buildings and the cow yards, and we can all envision what it was in its glory days. So a few years ago I found a website called Vintage Aerial. It's awesome, it's free, and you find these old flight plans of your township or whatever, and then if you can recognize the farmyards, some of them are kind of tough, they've been changed a lot over the years, but there's an awesome photo of this farmyard, and I thought we would show this before we walk around. So the beginning of this video, you can see there's a windmill right in the center just beyond the house there, and we're starting right there, and we're facing deeper into the photo. The big barn, the hog shed, the Quonset, the hay shed, the granary, and the parlor, and the house and garage are all still standing. There's a little building in the photo just next to the parlor that's gone, and I don't ever remember that being there. That was gone many decades ago. And then there's a building in the center far back of the photo that went down in the winter of 19 and 20. But this photo is awesome. It shows all the cattle yard shape, which is the same today. Of course, it's a little more ran down, but all the fences are laid out the same. The buildings are all the same. It's just a great photo that we can look at before we give the yard tour here. So we'll start with a quick summary of how this farm was put together. There was he's deceased now for probably 15 years, but we'll call him Jack. He was a workaholic, had a good hired man, and put together quite a bit of farmland and built this beautiful farmyard. He had 2 daughters, and one of them had a few children, and one of those farmed with Jack into the late 90s, and then it basically was rented out for crops. And then the cow yard here, our family was blessed with an opportunity to rent the cow yard and a conjoining pasture in the back. So that's a quick summary of how this farm was started and the family. And so the first thing we're looking at here is a working facility. It's all wood. We don't really use it anymore, just the edge of it to load out. But this is actually an area where I want to build a new working facility in the future. So this working area here is right next to the first building we're going to look at here. It's ahead of its time dairy parlor. Bryce will lead the way here in the doorway there and show what that looks like. It was built sometime prior to the 60s, and there's a concrete ramp on each end for them to walk in one way and walk out. And why don't we go in there, Bryce, and you can lead the way from here. There's 4 stanchions here.
So the one thing I really like about this, and you've pointed out too, Jacob, like I assume this is all hand poured cement, and you can they place the stones in here for
that's literally probably sourced from the local river rock in the field here, just
so they don't slip. That's just really, really cool.
Yeah, this parlor in its glory days was ahead of its time, and I'm sure beautiful. My family doesn't have much milking history, but the family like Bryce's and some other friends that have seen it can envision it even more than I can, how it worked. Here to Bryce's left is probably the entrance. And I think we came in the exit. But yeah, you can still see the colored rock for traction.
And you can also see how small the cows were back then. This is quite a small building. And then we can step down here. And obviously the cows would be here. And it's cut out here so you can access the cow. And your chains for opening the gates and everything. It's just a really fascinating old building.
There's a couple buildings, a couple rooms, I mean, here to Bryce's right. I'm not sure that was for milk storage and cooling and stuff like that.
Yep, and maybe had a bulk tank or something in here.
I had envisions of making a cattle working facility in here, but I'm afraid with the lack of light, steers and beef cows don't move as willingly as dairy cows, so I'm not gonna go down that experimental road. We're gonna make that outside. But yeah, this is quite the time capsule. I'm 30 years old now, and even when I was a young kid, I loved peeking in here and walking. And there's things that just sit forever, and it's so cool. So we're on the west side of the parlor here. This is an old water that I'd like to dig a new water line in from the outside here, cut out the cement, put in new water for this pen. It's kind of interesting how nature, Bryce looks there, the roots all swelled up and growing. You can see the cement to the left there is all heaved. That elm tree has had a hard go of it. I'm going to put it out of its misery shortly. But yeah, this lot here needs a water in it for the way I want to set stuff up. So that's one of the projects sometime soon. So this is a fairly extensive sized Quonset that was in the farm yard, full of lumber and other farm equipment right now. But it probably fit quite a bit of round bales in it and some of our own equipment someday. But for now we cut down some trees that were overgrowing it and got the branches and stuff off of it before they went down on it. It's a blessing that these buildings are still in salvageable condition for how many years this kind of sat vacant. This is an old granary here. Most any antiques or valuables in it are already out, but before that comes down, we'll have to give it a good thoroughbred look. This is a hay shed that has some equipment in it still. Yeah, we'd like to get that out, and I'd like to roast some hay along the bottom in the west, block the sun. And then I think Dad and I will enjoy storing stuff in there that doesn't have a battery. So things that can't go dead or won't start on, it'll be nice to just pull it down here and back it in there, and you're done with it. Roof needs a little repair, but that'll be a fun project. Putting the tins of sheet down and reinforcing a little bit. So this here is the biggest silage bunker. There was two of them. There's some cement on the side there, cement on the bottom, and then the dumping area here. Back in the day when Seneca was in town, they brought sweet corn silage in here and they'd dump it and then push it into the bunker. Here to the left is the cattle laneway that goes out to the pasture that we still use. Eventually I'd like to take out all those trees, pull the post, put in new posts, and make that more trustworthy and more presentable. And then over here to the left, there's kind of a big staging area if you're going to fill the planter, if you're going to fill trucks, all that stuff. It's a perfect area, but it's very uneven. I'd like to level that out. And around that Quonset there in the grass, I'd like to have so semis can come in for grain or cattle in the long future. Drive in, drive out, kind of modernize the driveway setup. Set up a big flat working area, loading area. Next we'll talk about the big barn over there. So this is the biggest barn in the yard. I just dropped a pin on Onyx and it says it's 100 foot long. It's kind of interesting here. If you notice on this left side, what I would think is an original limestone foundation of a previous barn that I'm not sure the story why that didn't last. Probably got outdated or too small. And then they took all the lumber off and started laying cinder blocks, and then built the barn like that. So we still use 1/3 of the barn here on the east side. We'll walk over there. So this is the other end of the barn. This right here, I'd like to make a feed bunk line someday. It's real nice here with the driveway. Pull up with a TMR mixer or whatever and feed cattle. This is the most extensive cement of the cow yard. I think this was poured in the early 90s. And one of the first fences I'd like to fix is that one over there. And the original, in the beginning of this video, the cattle working facility that was in the background is all the way to the right there. So we'll walk up in this barn quick and take a peek. So we would bring our first 38 pairs of beef cows down here and calves in the spring, get them out of the cow yard, and we would lock them out of the back part. This farm yard's had a little bit of a disease history over the years with so many cattle coming in and getting fed and stuff. So we found over the years that if we keep them towards the front, more airflow, and try to have them elsewhere, they're a lot healthier. And today's vaccines do a really good job of controlling stuff. But yeah, this is our little calf pen here. We put boards up, keep the cows out, and the bedding fresh for the calves. But yeah, this is a big old barn. A lot of these timbers in here, I'm sure, were home sawed here. Bryce will back up here and pan out in the field. When you look at all this home sawed timber, I'm sure you can envision where the trees came from down by the river bottom as it was cleared many decades ago. A lot of this timber probably did not come too far away. Over here to Bryce's right, these sheets of tin, that was a manure storage area. I like that it's on that side, but it's not the funnest continually trying to climb up the hill to load manure. So I've got to brainstorm where I want my cement wall. I'm thinking maybe farther down so that I'm not constantly trying to get traction uphill with the loader. But we'll go on the other end of the barn and show the upstairs, full of lots of goodies. So this is the top of that big barn we were just talking about. Quite a bit of equipment still in here. It's interesting to look at some of these old bale piles. There's some bean stubble that we personally have never baled at, but people say you'll never have cleaner bedding than that. There's some old corn stalks and hay on the other end. Some various farm equipment that eventually will come out, and I'd like to get all the fodder out of it and hopefully maybe link up with somebody that's got a sawmill. I know there's a ton of dead ash trees around, and if I could trade some wood for some sawmilling and lay a new floor in here and make use of it, there's a lot of life yet here. Storing lightweight stuff. Look at that, Bryce.
I see that.
That is a big size shed antler. Wonder what the story is with that.
Is that written on the...
Yeah. Not sure what's going on there. Looks like it just got L5. Not sure what's going on there. Huh. That's how vacant yards work. Wildlife just moves right in.
Yeah.
No surprise there at all. This is an old cistern. Gravity fed into the barn here. There's a silo. Little room there. You can kind of see more of the limestone foundation. And you can see all these stumps here. I mean, last December when I took possession of it, it was a bad day to be a tree in the wrong spot. We were going right at it, getting the brush off all these buildings before a winter storm caused problems. This is a smaller silage bunker that we're using as a brush burning area for now. As a kid, I always thought this bunk line was just incredible. It's all wood, and I can tell you in the 60s and 70s, I don't think that was TMR fed. I think that was a lot of by hand and maybe loader tractor type stuff. But we'll keep going down here. I think, I'm almost certain that overhang there was probably small square hay storage. you back a wagon or something in there and squirrel them away under there and kind of peel off as you need. So if you look to the right, that tree that's not quite leafed out, that would be the manure storage area we talked about earlier, and there's a lane between them. That small barn there was a hog barn, and then you can see over here there's some sheets of tin. The winter of 19 and 20 was a lot of snow and took that down, unfortunately. That was a nice cattle shed that we used and kept a lot of cattle out. But we're going to climb through this bunk here and keep showing what we got here. Now we're on the inside of this main bunk line here, and they had some nice cement here poured. And I'd like to keep most of this kind of the way it is. It's amazing how well this was laid out. So my future plan is to keep this bunk line right where it is, cut out all this and continue the bunk line up, pour a little cement, and make kind of a walking, or not a walking, but a tractor driving path down.
Because you're saying right here at the water, it kind of hits an angle,
Yeah.
which comes this way.
That's just not practical.
So we're gonna keep it going in a straight line.
Yeah, I'd like to rebuild it that way. And this water here, if you look behind Bryce here, he had a couple different pens here. And I really like that idea, but I'd like to dig in a new water right there where the fence tees. It can water that pen and both of these pens. Someday if we have our cattle out on stalks in the fall and I have feeders here, we can move the feeders into that pen, run the herd through this, into the lane, and into the main loadout area. I like the idea of multiple pens. You have multiple options. Even if it's just holding stuff a certain way for a couple hours, it's nice to have a few pens to work with. But yeah, it's a shame that shed went down. You get late in the year in February and the slope is gentle and the snow doesn't melt off. You get a lot of weight and down it goes. So cow yard fence I'd like to rebuild. I'd like to incorporate maybe a couple of those oaks for free shade and less stress on cattle, the better. But we'll keep going over here. So this is the smaller barn that's on the property yet, and it was a hog barn. You can see the little hog barn door there. Future plans for that, probably just clean it out, and probably won't be pigs, and it might be a couple, but clean it out, make use of it, maybe put some paint on it. The pin's still in pretty decent shape. Over here to the right is the main lane way between the cattle yard here. You can see the bale feeder that was in the cement part earlier in the video. So this is the main lane that was between the pens that we were just chatting about, and a little cement area, cow tank that we still use and water the cattle out of. This is the hog barn. Let's step inside there quick and see this time capsule. You can see all the 1x1s mounted on the posts and stuff for the hog pens, and then some doors out the sides. Back in the day you had dairy cows, beef cows, hogs. Only thing this place is missing is a chicken barn.
Well, it looks like we did have something converted into a chicken coop.
Yes, this corner here definitely has had some chickens over the years, and certainly will sometime soon. But yeah, I think that's all the buildings. We'll step into the cow yard and I'll show you some of my near-term plans on fence building. So I'm going to highlight some projects that I definitely want to wrap up this summer before we got to load out cattle this fall. The main fence line here, I'd like to tear out all that old wood and panels. Bryce might be able to make use of some of them panels on his big cattle ranch. I'd like to get some well pipe in there for posts and some guardrail. And you've got a lot that slopes into a fence like that. It's got to be beefy. And then this loadout area here, I'd like to gut that all out. And I've got a design here that I made on Microsoft Paint. Might show up there decent, but we're standing just off to the left here, and the cattle would come into a bud box and then back, and then there's a head chute, they go out, or into a loadout over here. But yeah, that's that's the plan, is to just keep pecking away at the cow yard and think through different things that multi-use for dry lotting cows in the spring, or feeders, or whatever. There's a lot of possibility here, lots of land to spread manure and possibly grow forage crops and stuff like that, and a lot of excitement. So yeah, we'll end the video with that.